My beloved child. There are moments when silence carries more weight than 1,000 spoken words, and this is one of them. You may have sensed that something around this connection has felt different, as though an invisible page had been turned while no one was looking. The person you love has been walking through an unexpected night of uncertainty, and although many voices have offered opinions, none of them have carried the understanding your heart has been searching for. What reached your ears was never the complete story, and what remained hidden is far more meaningful than rumors could ever explain. Don't skip, because every quiet detail you are about to hear belongs to a much larger picture that has been unfolding beyond your sight. Someone close to this story made a choice that changed the atmosphere of an ordinary evening, not through dramatic actions, but through words left unsaid, worried expressions, and the strange feeling that everyone in the room knew something delicate had happened. Yet no one found the courage to bring that truth to you. Strange, isn't it? Sometimes people stay silent because they believe they are protecting us, while unknowingly leaving us with questions that grow heavier with every passing hour. And perhaps that is exactly why your heart has felt restless without knowing why. The person you care about spent that night facing an unexpected setback that left everyone deeply concerned, but what mattered most was not the event itself, it was the realization that one thought continued returning to them above every other thought. It was you. Even in confusion, your name became a quiet source of comfort. Not because you had all the answers, but because your presence had always represented hope when certainty disappeared. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. There is another layer to this story that no one has spoken aloud. Hidden beneath anxious conversations was a single conversation that changed everything. A voice finally admitted that assumptions had become stronger than truth, and that misunderstanding had quietly taken the place of honesty. That confession did not erase the pain of the night, but it opened a door that had seemed locked for far too long. You are closer to understanding than you realize, yet the most unexpected revelation has still not been uncovered. Before this chapter can truly make sense, one final piece must emerge. The message that was never delivered, the one that explains why your name became the center of every whispered conversation before the sun rose. And when that message is finally revealed, nothing about this story will look the same again. A quiet realization often arrives without announcing itself, and this is where the path begins to change. While everyone around this situation believed they understood what had unfolded, one person could not escape a single question that echoed through every conversation: should the truth finally be shared? The answer did not come immediately. Instead, hesitation filled the room, because they feared that revealing everything too soon would only create more confusion than peace. Yet every passing moment made silence feel heavier than honesty. Don't skip. Because what happened next was not driven by chance, but by a decision made from the deepest place of the heart. As the morning light slowly replaced the darkness, the person you love searched for one familiar thought that had never failed them before. They remembered the kindness you had shown when no one else noticed. They remembered the patience you carried when others hurried to judge. Those memories became stronger than every fearful whisper surrounding them. It was then they quietly said something that no one expected. They admitted that if there was one person who deserved the complete truth, it was you. The room became still. No arguments followed. No one interrupted. Even those who had encouraged silence suddenly realized that keeping you in the dark was no longer the right choice. But another mystery remained untouched. A small detail from the previous evening refused to disappear. It was not an object, nor a dramatic discovery. It was a sentence, simple, almost ordinary, that someone had spoken moments before everything changed. At first it seemed unimportant, yet as every memory was carefully revisited, that single sentence began connecting pieces no one had noticed before. Suddenly the story no longer looked like an unfortunate misunderstanding. It looked like a chain of moments leading toward a truth that had been hiding in plain sight. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. The person you love now understands that some connections are tested not by distance, but by the courage to replace assumptions with honesty. They are no longer wondering whether you should know. They are wondering how to tell you in a way that brings peace instead of more questions. And just when they believed they had finally found the right words, someone unexpected stepped forward carrying one final piece of the puzzle. A detail so personal, so quietly powerful, that it would change the meaning of the entire night before a single explanation could even begin. Without warning, the atmosphere shifted again, not because anyone raised their voice, but because one unexpected witness chose to stop remaining silent. Until that moment, everyone believed they were protecting the person you love by carefully choosing which details to reveal and which to keep hidden. Yet the longer they carried that burden, the more obvious it became that the missing truth was creating a greater distance than the truth itself ever could. Don't skip, because this is where the story quietly turns in a direction no one anticipated. The witness unfolded the evening step by step, revealing that what appeared confusing from the outside was far different from what had truly happened. There had been concern, hurried conversations, and countless assumptions, but beneath all of it was one undeniable fact: the person you love never stopped believing that you would understand them if only you knew the whole story. While others questioned, doubted, and speculated, they held on to a quiet confidence that your heart would see beyond appearances. That single belief became their greatest source of strength. As those memories were shared, another realization slowly surfaced. Someone admitted that a misunderstanding had spread from one conversation to another until it sounded like certainty. No one intended to deceive you. Instead, every person added a small piece of their own interpretation, and before long, the original truth became almost impossible to recognize. How often does that happen in life? A single incomplete moment grows into a story that no longer resembles reality. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Then came the detail that changed every expression in the room. Before the night had ended, the person you love had quietly left a message, not dramatic, not desperate, but deeply sincere. They asked that when the right moment arrived, you would hear everything directly from them instead of through whispers. They did not want your heart to carry borrowed conclusions. They wanted you to know their own voice, their own intentions, and their own truth. Yet that message never reached you. It remained in the hands of someone who believed waiting a little longer would be the wiser choice. Now that person is beginning to question that decision, because another discovery has just come to light. Hidden within that forgotten message is one sentence so deeply connected to your own journey that everyone who has finally read it understands why your name was spoken with such emotion throughout the entire night. And the moment those words are finally revealed, the silence that has surrounded this story will no longer be able to remain. An unexpected calm settled over everything, the kind of silence that appears only after countless unanswered questions have finally begun finding their place. The person you love looked toward the unopened message once more, knowing that inside it was not merely an explanation, but a piece of their heart they had never allowed anyone else to see. Don't skip, because the next few moments carry the meaning behind everything that has happened so far. One by one, the memories of that evening began fitting together like scattered pieces of a forgotten picture. A worried glance. A conversation interrupted halfway through. A promise whispered so softly that almost no one noticed it. None of those moments seemed important by themselves, yet together they revealed something extraordinary. Throughout the entire night, while everyone else focused on confusion, the person you love was thinking about only one thing: how to make sure you never blamed yourself for circumstances you never created. That realization changed the atmosphere completely. Faces that had been filled with uncertainty softened with understanding. Someone quietly admitted, "We thought protecting the truth would protect both of them." Another answered just as softly, "Instead, it only kept two hearts waiting longer than they should have." No one argued after that. There was nothing left to defend. The silence itself became the answer. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Then the unopened message was finally placed where it had always belonged. Hands hesitated before unfolding it, almost afraid that the words inside might change everything forever. But when the first lines were read, they carried neither blame nor anger. They carried gratitude. Gratitude for every quiet moment you had shared. Gratitude for the patience you had shown without ever asking for recognition. Gratitude for remaining true to yourself even when you never knew how deeply your presence had been valued. Yet there was one final paragraph that no one expected. The room became completely still as those closing words were read aloud. It spoke about a promise the person you love had made to themselves long before this night unfolded, a promise connected to you, one they had never confessed because they feared the timing was never right. Now, after everything that had happened, they no longer wished to keep that promise hidden. And just as they gathered the courage to reveal it completely, another unexpected knock at the door interrupted the moment, bringing someone whose arrival would uncover the last missing piece of the story. Just when every heart believed the waiting was finally over, the sound at the door changed everything again. No one hurried to answer it. For a brief moment, the entire room seemed suspended between the past and the future, as though everyone sensed that whoever had arrived was carrying more than a simple greeting. The person you love quietly lifted their eyes, and for the first time since this journey began, there was no fear in them, only a quiet readiness to face whatever truth was about to step inside. Don't skip, because this is the moment every hidden thread begins to weave together. The visitor did not enter with dramatic words. Instead, they carried something small, carefully protected, as though it had been entrusted to them for only one purpose. "This belongs where honesty lives," they said softly. Those few words settled over the room like morning light after a long night. It was not the object itself that mattered. It was what it represented. It proved that the story everyone had been repeating was never complete. As it was gently opened, another forgotten memory came rushing back. The person you love smiled through quiet emotion, remembering a promise made long ago, one that seemed ordinary at the time but had silently guided every important decision since. They had never allowed disappointment to erase that promise. They had never allowed confusion to replace hope. Even when others encouraged them to move on, a small part of their heart kept believing that understanding would one day arrive. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Then the visitor shared one final detail that no one else had known. During the most uncertain moments of that difficult night, when conversations became overwhelming and opinions filled every corner of the room, the person you love spoke only one request. Please don't let them hear an unfinished story. Those words echoed through everyone present. Suddenly, every delay, every hesitation, every silence began to make sense. They were never trying to keep you away. They were trying to make sure that when you finally learned the truth, it would come with clarity instead of confusion, with peace instead of regret. Yet the greatest surprise had still not been revealed. The visitor reached into a pocket and unfolded one last handwritten note that had never been read aloud. It was addressed to you from the very beginning. As the first sentence came into view, every person in the room fell completely silent, because they realized those words would forever change the way you understood this entire journey, and the next line was the one the person you love had waited the longest for you to hear. Before the final truth is spoken, one last silence must be understood. It was not the silence of distance. It was the silence of someone protecting a hope they believed was too precious to lose. As the folded note rested gently between trembling hands, every eye in the room remained fixed upon it, knowing that the next words would carry far more than an explanation. They would reveal the heartbeat behind every decision that had been made. Don't skip, because something important is waiting for you. The note was opened with extraordinary care, as though even the paper itself deserved respect for carrying emotions that had waited so long to be heard. The first sentence was simple, yet it reached every heart in the room. If these words have finally found you, then the moment I hoped for has arrived. No one spoke. The person you love lowered their head, remembering the evening those words had first been written. It had not been a night of certainty. It had been a night filled with questions, quiet prayers, and an unshakable desire that one day you would understand what could never be explained through hurried conversations. The message continued. Please don't believe every story that reached you before mine. People saw pieces of the evening, but no one carried the whole picture except me. As those words were read aloud, several people exchanged quiet glances. They realized they had unintentionally allowed assumptions to become louder than facts. Each person had witnessed only a fragment, yet together they had created a version of events that never truly reflected the heart of the one at the center of it all. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Then came the line that left the room completely still. The hardest part of that night was not facing uncertainty. The hardest part was wondering if you would think I had forgotten you. A gentle stillness settled over everyone. At last, they understood why your name had been spoken again and again while the hours slowly passed. It was never about blame. It was never about fear. It was about a connection that remained steady even when everything else felt uncertain. The note ended with a promise that no one had expected. When the right time comes, I don't want our story to continue through whispers. I want it to continue through truth, patience, and the courage to begin again. Those final words lingered in the air long after the reading had ended. Just as everyone believed there was nothing more to discover, the visitor quietly smiled and revealed that this handwritten note was only the first page. There was another page, kept safely apart for one special reason. It contained the one memory the person you love had never shared with anyone, a memory connected only to you. And the moment that second page was unfolded, every unanswered question from the beginning of this journey started leading toward a single, unforgettable revelation. The room did not rush toward the second page. Somehow, everyone understood that certain truths deserve patience before they are heard. The person you love closed their eyes for a brief moment, took a slow breath, and smiled in a way no one had seen for a very long time. It was the smile of someone who had carried a quiet burden for too many days and was finally ready to set it down. Don't skip, because what comes next is not a dramatic ending. It is the missing piece that gives every previous moment its meaning. The second page unfolded with remarkable simplicity. There were no grand declarations, no complicated explanations, only words written with complete honesty. There is one memory I have never shared because I wanted the right moment to protect it. Everyone leaned in. It was the ordinary day when you encouraged me without even realizing it. You probably forgot that conversation before the evening ended, but I never did. Whenever life became uncertain, I returned to that memory. It reminded me that genuine kindness leaves footprints long after words disappear. A peaceful silence filled the room. Suddenly, every anxious conversation from the previous night seemed smaller than the truth now resting before them. What had sustained the person you love was not confusion, not fear, but a quiet memory of hope connected to you. While others searched for answers in endless discussions, they had already found strength in something much simpler, a moment of sincerity that never faded. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. One by one, those who had witnessed the night's events admitted something they had not noticed before. Throughout every difficult moment, the person you love had never spoken with bitterness. They had never asked anyone to judge you. In fact, whenever your name came up, they gently reminded everyone, "Please don't let assumptions speak louder than truth." Those words changed every heart in the room. The visitor then reached into an envelope one final time and revealed a small photograph that had been tucked behind the handwritten pages. It wasn't valuable because of what it showed. It was valuable because of the note written on its back. "Keep this until the day everything finally makes sense." The visitor smiled softly. That day, they whispered, is closer than any of us realized. The person you love looked toward the window where the first light of a new morning was beginning to appear. For the first time since this journey began, there was no uncertainty in their eyes. There was only quiet confidence that the story was no longer being carried by rumors or incomplete memories. Yet before anyone could leave the room, one final message arrived. It wasn't expected. It wasn't delayed by accident. It had been waiting for the exact moment when every misunderstanding had finally fallen away. And when that final message was opened, everyone realized it contained the words the person you love had wanted you to hear from the very beginning. The envelope was opened slowly, not because anyone feared what it contained, but because they wanted every word to be received exactly as it had been written. The handwriting was familiar, calm, and unmistakably sincere. If you are reading this now, then the time for misunderstandings has finally come to an end. The room grew perfectly still. I never wanted our story to be carried from one person to another. I wanted it to travel directly from my heart to yours. Every delay, every unanswered moment, every quiet pause had only one purpose, to make sure that when the truth reached you, it would arrive complete. Those words settled gently into every heart. For the first time, everyone understood why the person you love had refused to let frustration speak for them. They had chosen patience over confusion, grace over assumptions, and hope over hurried conclusions. It had not always been easy, but they believed that real understanding could never be built on half-heard conversations. Don't skip, because the next realization changes everything. The message continued. There was never a moment when I stopped believing that we would one day understand each other more clearly than before. Not because everything would become perfect, but because truth has a quiet way of finding those who are willing to wait for it. Someone in the room quietly wiped away a tear. Another whispered, "Now I finally understand." The person you love smiled, not with excitement, but with relief. The weight they had carried for so long was beginning to disappear. They no longer felt the need to explain themselves to everyone. The only explanation that truly mattered had finally reached the person it was always meant for. Then, at the very bottom of the page, there was one final handwritten sentence. When we meet again, I don't want our first conversation to begin with questions. I want it to begin with gratitude, for everything that taught us the value of honesty, patience, and trust. No one spoke after those words. Outside, the morning light had become brighter than anyone noticed. It felt less like the ending of a difficult chapter and more like the beginning of one written with greater understanding. Yet as everyone prepared to leave, the visitor quietly revealed one last surprise. There is one more thing, they said with a gentle smile. It isn't another letter. It isn't another secret. It's the reason this entire journey began in the first place. And when that reason was finally shared, every moment, from the first unanswered silence to the final message, would fit together in a way no one had ever imagined.